Hey, have you or someone you know started or jumped into a business and then had everything fall apart right after they did it? If that's you, you're going to love this episode. Our guest today ended up acquiring a business from a family member. And after the acquisition, hit about every problem you could have from what it sounds like. This interview is so entertaining because of the fact that he was able to not only address the challenges that he faced, but to overcome them. And in the past 7 years of his growth since his acquisition, the company has tripled in size and he's seen enormous success through a lot of self-development and other strategies that have put his business on the right path to growth and scaling. And that's why we had him on the interview today. This interview should inspire you, this interview should energize you, and it should make you feel like it's never the right time to give up. And so I hope it does the same for you as it did for me. It was very inspiring for me to talk with him. The questions took a different path than normal, and I found the whole interview quite educational. So I hope it helps you learn what you need to do to grow and scale your business today. Welcome to the Growth and Scaling Podcast. This is your host, Todd Westra, and I am so glad you're here today because we are going to interview an amazing founder or executive who is going to share with us their decisions that they made that exploded their growth. So if you need some inspiration, you want to hear how other businesses are doing it, this is a place to be, and we are glad you're here. Enjoy this episode. We have an awesome guest today, and we're going to love to dive into what he's done to grow and scale what he's up to. So we're going to dive right in. Colson, who are you and what do you do?
My mantra is relentless intentional action towards 10x joy and abundance and to experience the wonder of the world. You just got my life's purpose. So
that sounds awesome.
As a leader, I'm looking to actually be a builder of a community that creates opportunities. My company delivers 10x confidence to research, recruitment, and data collection. And so if you're completely unfamiliar, think online surveys and in-depth interviewing for qual and quant research.
Love it. Are these what's the main problem you're solving? Are you calling clients? You calling potential clients? You calling wins, losses? What kind of data are you collecting and for who? Who's looking for the stuff?
So about 40% of our business is in the agriculture sector, and it would be if major OEM is working on product development for a new set of operating controls on a tractor that's going to require tens of millions of dollars of investment. They would invest in research to make sure that what they're doing matches the market. And we would actually be the ones to run the operations of the research and deliver that data back, engage the audience in it.
Cool. That's cool. Okay. So that's a big play. And I mean, a lot of people discount how important the ag business is to our nation and to our economy, but it's massive. And you being from Missouri area,
yeah.
Is that right? So there's a lot of agricultural going on in Missouri. And isn't Caterpillar based out of there? Something like that?
I don't actually know.
I think they might be. Well, that's cool. So you have, how long have you been doing this?
I've been doing this this is my 12th year. Myself and my business partner bought the company about 7 years ago.
Fantastic. So you started as an employee and then bought the company?
Yes, it was my father's business.
Right on. Okay. Well, that's awesome. So that's a different story. That's a whole different side of the picture that I didn't know coming into the interview. There's a lot of people that find themselves in that type of scenario. What was it like working for your dad and transitioning from that into, hey, guess what? I think I see a direction I want to take this, and then making the move to move on that?
Yeah, that's a saga worth a long conversation over. I mean, the benefit that you gain from joining your father's business is that you get trusted to have some leeway and actually like find your own place in the world at a very young age. And the disadvantage is that if you have completely different ideas about what the direction of the company should be and the way in which the company should be managed, like myself and my father is, then you will have incredibly intense conflict until it gets resolved. And the best way to resolve it was, in my mind, for me to run the business.
There you go. Yeah, I bet that's a good way to do it. And how did it work out? Like, what was that? How did you know, though? Let's take one step back. I mean, you started working for him when? Out of college?
Pretty much.
Okay. So you come out of college, you start working with your dad, and then you're like, what made you decide to stay with that business as opposed to going and starting something of your own? And then B, when you thought of the idea of hey, you know what? I think I could take this and do something different with it than what my dad's ever been able to do. Let's do this. How did that kind of what was that whole process like?
A saga. We did. I really am an optimizer of all things and look to what is my path of least resistance to like owning my own company, and had gotten a finance degree and thought that was the path that I was going to go down, and then then in joining the organization that I'm now the owner of, I was able to realize that like the business model that was in place was something that had worked for 15 years, but it was not going to be sustainable. And we were overly dependent on one largest client. And it was very much necessary that like evolve or die. And I had enough insane unwarranted ego and hubris to think that I could make all of those changes, even though I was 26 years old. And so I teamed up with what had been kind of his right-hand man to say, we'll run through it. But those first 3 years essentially are the definition of entrepreneurial poverty, right? Like we had no money of our own, took on debt to sustain the continued business operations. We're in a forever battle because that largest customer was acquired from a new private equity firm the year that we took over ownership.
Wow.
And
great.
yeah, and then fortunately, out of like complete and utter frustration, I had probably figured out the business model, but we were killing ourselves to do it, just working nonstop. And then at the end of 2018, decided I had to go different. And it took probably, the journey of the last 4 years to be in a completely different place than we were then.
Love it. Well, tell me about it. I mean, so during this journey of transition and during the journey of taking on the debt, and really it sounds like almost a whole new startup at that point, because you really, you lost your anchor client. You had to kind of redefine yourself. What was your favorite part about that whole experience? And then we'll dive into what was the biggest challenge of that whole experience. This sounds like a nightmare.
I mean, my favorite part is that as long as you're listening, entrepreneurship is like the greatest vehicle for personal self-development that can possibly exist. And for my own self, I mean, who at my like age and experience level has the opportunity, like I get to invest so much back into my own personal growth, because essentially like where this company can go is like how much I can personally grow and then see this company become a true self-expression of like what I'm capable of.
Love it. That's actually really deep. That's pretty cool. Very, very introspective of you. So that is a great thing to come of it. What was the hardest part? I mean, you just rattled off like 3 or 4 big, huge hits in the face in the transition of the ownership of the company. What was the hardest challenge, and what did you do to overcome it?
I would actually also go on the introspective route and say that like the constant fight against my own ignorance. Like I just have felt like I've spent far too much time peeling back layers of the onions of ways in which I can screw this up, and then realize that only in seeing my own financial outcomes at the end of the next quarter or the next cycle that we go through, and just always having to recommit to understand the current state, learn from that experience, and set a new course for what actually needs to be done.
Right.
I've always, particularly in those first 3.5 years, I was very ignorant to figuring out how to get that outside help that I needed, and because I never had the resources to, because I was always broke, and I was just always trying to solve it myself and be the hero. And now I've stepped very much away from that. But those are hard lessons that you don't learn them. You can choose never to learn them if you're not willing to.
Agreed. And I think that's what drives a lot of people out of business.
Oh, yeah.
Or mental, they start having a lot of other mental issues going on, emotional issues, if they don't find some resources for that. What drove you in the first part of the acquisition? You talked about taking on some debt. I think a lot of bootstrapped startups struggle to wrap their head around why would I bring on debt to build and grow my business? What was your decision-making process look like? What did that look like when you did that?
When I did it, it was based upon knowing like that I could cash flow it, and I'm still in that boat. I mean, we still have a disproportionately high debt-to-equity ratio. But I don't.
But you can
I don't
service
want to,
it,
right? I mean, we can service and cash flow the debt, and I don't want to sacrifice the I always have a lot of ideas of ways I would like to be reinvesting in growing, and part of what I've now had to go through after 7 years is the realization we can't just only play that cycle. Like I have to have a healthy and strong business, and so that I can actually be in a position to keep it going, because we're about almost triple the size we were when we bought it, and
awesome.
Now we're at that point where we can self-fund because of how free credit was in 2020 to double where we are now, but then we're gonna have to be a really healthy business.
Right. Congrats, dude. That's really cool. Tripling the size of a business is an exciting feat. I mean, doubling is exciting, but tripling in size, would that be due to your diversification? I mean, how much of your business now is dependent on one sole client versus, say, an industry? Versus, you said 40% of your business right now is ag. How did you decide to diversify? Was it clients? Was it industries? What did you look at and say, we're going to run into another problem again if we stick with this? What did that look like?
Mike McCallowic's Pumpkin Plan Your Business. Don't know if you're familiar with him as an entrepreneurial author. He's a very fun entrepreneurial author. that helped me to decide on the ag sector as like such a narrow niche that we could actually target it and be like essentially people would find us for that, right?
Right.
Your question was, where did we? So now our client concentration is pretty non-existent. Our biggest customer was 11% of our revenue last year. I mean,
that's safer.
Yeah, it's not. And then outside of them, no one is more than 5%. So,
I love it.
And I think, but that's also very representative of trying to move myself out of being the primary new business development salesperson and actually having 2 salespeople in sales seats and doing a much more customer account acquisition over the past, 18 months than was ever done in the entire history of the company. So those, the relationships we're in should be ones that grow in value year over year, and they really shouldn't stop as long as we are appropriately providing the service delivery. The people who are investing in research continue to invest in research.
Right. That's awesome. So are you aggressively marketing? Are you, obviously it sounds like, did your dad kind of run it as an owner-driven sales force versus having reps in play, or how has that evolution happened in your revenue operations?
Like my dad was, I would say, as I've gotten to know a lot of other entrepreneurs, he was that quintessential small business hustler. Like, I mean, everything ran through him, and he made, he was the rainmaker. He was the relationship guy. Like, there was
decision maker for everything.
And that, that centralized world keeps you to a relatively limited amount of scale. It's not like I knew any better, but I really, really, really wanted it to be different. So I have certainly worked to figure out how to lead and manage a different way to deliver on that. Right.
I love it. Dude, you have, we've covered a lot of hard topics on this call. I actually love it. You've talked about, acquiring a legacy family type business. You talked about bringing on debt. You've talked about challenges in losing, key clients and challenge of diversifying. I mean, this has been a fantastic interview. Not gonna lie. I mean, what kind of advice do you give to people dealing with those types of challenge? Like, do you have someone that you look at in your immediate network that, like, when you hit some of those walls, you just kind of went through it and said, dude, these guys inspire me. I want to talk to this person, hear what they have to tell, advise me, mentor me. There's someone like you'd like to give a shout out to today?
One would be one of my friends that helped me immensely over the last 4 years is my friend Tim Petron, who is actually wayfinding, doing some of his own consulting right now, but at the time was a partner at a management consulting firm that specifically focuses on organizational health and creating safe and trusting environments within workplaces, which helped me so much like learn how to be the type of leader that I actually wanted to be.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I noticed that your LinkedIn profile gives a healthy description of your main focuses and your main goals and objectives as a person, your favorite quotes. It was inspiring to read through your profile and see, now having talked to you, I can really see that you are not only striving to be an amazing business owner and growth strategist in your company, but you're also very involved in your own personal development and becoming a better person at the same time. Would that be fair to say?
would probably be an understatement. If I'm in the 1% in any zone based off of everyone that I know, it's in like actually being willing to share how aggressively I work to like optimize my own life.
I love it. I love it. Well, it shows, and I'm sure that your business thanks you for it, because going through what you have survived through usually kills businesses. Those are business killers, and you've made it through, and you've been able to achieve a great level of success since then. Tripling the size of your business since acquisition is awesome, and I wish you all the best moving forward. I really appreciate the time you spent with us today, and those listening, I'm positive you've learned some great insights as to what it takes to scale. Colson, where do people get a hold of you? Where can they follow you? Are you most present on LinkedIn, or is there a different platform you'd like to hang on?
The only social I do is LinkedIn, and
cool.
I post a few times a week, so.
Awesome. Well, Colson, appreciate the time today. We will send people your way to follow you and take a look at what you've got to say and how you can advise them. And we appreciate taking the time.
Yeah, thank you.
What did you think of that? That was some crazy stuff. Problem after problem. Oftentimes people think that growing into a business, especially taking over business from someone like your dad, would be a pretty easy task. Like all the hard work has been done in the launch and the setup of the business. But no, not for Colson. What an inspiration. What a great guy. What an amazing leader. And in our post interview, we actually had a chance to talk about some of the frameworks that he's put into play and the structure that he needed to put his business on, he was able to do and build a strong base, build a strong foundation, and took that business into a place that he didn't think was possible at the time. And so personal development, huge advocate of that. Really strengthening yourself helped him strengthen his organization, which was super exciting and inspirational. Truly, this business and the business founder really give an insight into the challenges of growth and scaling, the challenges of business ownership, and I hope that you learned something that gave you an idea of what it takes to grow and scale your business. Thanks for being here today.